Quick, how many devices in your home use
audio devices, you guys?
No, don't do that. That would be that wouldn't work.
I know.
What about, can you get the file from elsewhere?
Well, to do that, you know what the children are. The issue is, I don't. If I had a link cable to connect my iPad to my computer, I could just transfer it over. Damn.
I think seriously.
Okay. Hey, Josh.
Hey.
Hi.
So Max, Robert, Elliot, Jack, all of you mean Josh.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
So Max is the host of the show. He is actually in the station. Robert was our ace player on our StarCraft team.
What's up?
Cool.
Elliot has been a continual force on the show and has been a avid gamer. And Jack was one of my original co-hosts on the show.
Nice.
And he's obsessed with Star Wars: The Old Republic.
You still play it?
Only just started at the beginning of the summer, actually.
Because I referred him.
Oh wow. Okay. It's an amazing single player game, man, but MMO wise lacks a bit.
Yeah, that's what I hear, but MMOs have never really been my thing anyways.
Yeah.
And by the way, single player games have, so fine by me.
Cool.
Okay, gents, I'm about to fire the show up, so what I'm going to have to do is plug you guys into the USB, which means that until I go through the song, I won't be able to hear you at all.
Okay.
Alright, so, plugging you in.
So we won't be able to be heard until Max switches us over. Anyone have any? Everyone has seen the show notes, right?
Yeah, I have
Jack?
enough on my computer.
Jack,
I have not even looked at them.
here, let me.
I got them in the email. I'll scan them now.
They're pretty general.
Yep. Josh, do you want me to introduce you as Josh or Clutch?
Let's do Clutch.
Okay, Clutch.
So people can Google Clutch easier.
WHCL broadcasts at a designated frequency of 88.7 megahertz and serves Hudson, New York. We hope you enjoy the upcoming broadcast. Thank you.
He does this every time.
Yeah, last time I caught the tail end of your guys' show, and there was a conversation going on during the music. I don't know if that's normal, but yep.
Oh, that's
Well,
fair.
I'll take a listen over at WHCL.
We shouldn't be able to hear anything that we're saying right now, anyway. But something to keep in mind.
Josh, is there anything in particular that you want to talk about?
No, not in particular. If something comes up I feel I need to say, I'll definitely speak up.
Oh, geez. Sorry. Very diligent, but his output stinks. His code not functional or elegant. What the code monkey think? Code monkey think maybe manager wanna write a goddamn login page himself. Code monkey not stated out loud. Code monkey not crazy, just proud. Code monkey like Tweedos. Code monkey like tab and not you. Code monkey very simple man. Big, warm, fuzzy, secret heart. Going monkey like you. Going monkey like you. Good monkey hang around this breakfast till your sweater look nice. Good monkey up and buy you soda. Bring you cup, bring you ice. You say no thanks for the soda good, soda make you spank. Anyway, you're busy with the telephone, no time for chat. Good monkey, have one walk back to you the throat. You sit down, sit down to work. Good monkey not making so straight. Good monkey not feeling so straight. Good monkey like me. Good monkey like that, not you. Good monkey like man. Big warm fuzzy secret heart. Good monkey like you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 10:09 p.m. You're listening to 88.7 WHCL FM, Clinton, New York, bringing you the stormy sounds of summer. I'm your DJ, Max Schnidman, and that was Jonathan Colton's Code Monkey. Code Monkey, yes. An excellent song from the Humble Indie Music Bundle, which we will be discussing a little bit later tonight. But right now, what I'd like to do is introduce our gaming panel for this evening. Gents, take it away.
All right, hi everyone again. I am Dak
Guys.
Wiltshire, and yes, Max can hear us hopefully. So I'm just gonna make sure that everyone else can hear me because otherwise this is really not off to a good start. Can the other people in this call hear me?
Roger.
Yep. Oh,
Can you let there?
so all right, so I am, as I was saying, Matt Dak Wiltshire. I do a show called Behind the Screens every week with Anna. And let's just go around and let's start with Elliot. Elliot, who are you?
Hi, my name is Elliot Greenham. I am a junior at Hamilton College studying neuroscience. I've been playing games since about the mid-90s. I love action-adventure games and stuff like that. Love RTSs, puzzle games. And I have been helping with the show since mid-last year.
What about you, Robert?
I am Robert Huben. I'm also a Hamilton student, and I also play games.
Now, there's a guy in this call who used to be on the show every week. I wonder who that is.
I don't know.
Who are you?
I'm Jack Dunn. I used to be a DJ on this show, and a student at Hamilton College, like Max Schnidman, Robert Cuban, and Elliot Greenham, and Matt Wiltshire.
Formerly.
Well, okay, never mind. This is getting confusing. Half of them are still there, half of them are gone. But in any event, I like video games, and glad to be here on the show tonight.
All right, and we have a special guest this weekend. Or actually, I guess it's not the weekend yet. Well, it depends on what your point of view of the weekend is. I guess at Hamilton, the weekend starts on Thursday. But anyway, we have a guy named Clutch, or that's his gamer tag. Clutch, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself before I screw up your introduction?
Sure, my name is Joshua Clutch Gray. I've worked in the realm of esports for a couple years now. A lot of people know me as a host for major esports events. So I'm an avid gamer and love what I do.
It's great to have you on, Clutch. If y'all have never heard of Clutch before, go check him out. You can find out you can see his stream, Twitch TV, what, Clutch08? Or
Yep, Clutch08.
And follow him on Twitter, also Clutch08.
Can I help you?
And I believe that Max is talking to the wrong person. So, let's get
Trying to work on that. Sorry, there's some technical issues I'm trying to iron out.
Alright, well, let's go right into our first topic, because while Max is trying to figure out exactly what's going on, and hopefully the audience can't hear him, because that would be really embarrassing.
Which mic?
So, let's go for... One of the main things that we're going to be talking about tonight is our ideas for MMOs. And so...
No, over Skype.
This started out as a conversation between some friends. What we were talking about was what a Harry Potter MMO would look like. Now, I think that, Clutch, you have the most experience of all of us on MMOs. What would you... how would you define MMOs?
Well, an MMO is a game that you play with a couple other thousand people on one server, and you have to group up with others in order to get the majority of the content, basically. That's how I describe MMOs. A lot of people will try to the massive multiplayer online. That's what it stands for. But what does that really mean? You have a progression-based system, and you get to party with other people and fight bosses and get better gear. And it's more of the questing that is central to the game compared to storyline, which is a lot of single-player experiences. So that's how I pretty much sum up MMOs.
That's right.
I just want to say that
it doesn't seem
currently it seems as though we are having a little bit of a technical difficulty, and the people that are listening through WHCL FM cannot hear us. And so, the people that can hear us are the people that are on Clutch's stream. So, hi Clutch's stream. And I agree with you about, how to define an MMO. There are a lot of different ways that MMOs have gone, and the way that, different attempts at trying for... It's a very difficult genre to get right.
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen a lot of attempts in the past few years trying to dethrone World of Warcraft, which, anyone who has not had their head under a rock knows is just a behemoth that sucks out souls.
Yeah, it was and is still currently the industry leader in terms of subscribers for an MMO, for a subscription-based game at $14.99 a month. And it continues to dominate, even though it was officially released back in late 2004. Yeah, very late 2004.
I remember day one going and picking up a copy, and the addiction started. But we're not going to talk about my terrible destructive habits. We're going to talk about what makes MMOs interesting. Now, you just said that it's still the highest subscription-based game. With the most users, but it got overtaken by, what's it called, League of Legends, not all that long ago, and we talked about this last week, that free-to-play games, such as League of Legends, are, obviously, because they're free, overtaking games where you have to pay for them with regard to market share. And before we get into the nitty-gritty of taking our imagination, letting our imaginations go wild, let's talk a little bit about what we think that means for the industry with regard to payment plans. Do you think that all MMOs are going to have to be free to play in order to maximize their appeal?
Well, it almost seems that free to play is our ship is sinking kind of flag that a lot of companies raise when they have to go to that model. And to me, they try to squeeze as much life out of what they can of a product. They can't really sustain a subscription-based model anymore, so they have to attract a lot of people to the game in a free way, and then they can have microtransactions. But when you brought up League of Legends, the freemium type model is really starting to kind of dominate the scene of what is popular and what works in the best way. I mean, League of Legends and Riot Games, the developer of League of Legends, is not hurting financially. They're doing very well. Right. And they continuously have this revenue, this income, where the only thing that they're doing to build their product or to build a new product is just to release a new champion to the same game they've already had built, or just to release more skins, artwork to these champions. So it's not...
And Dominion.
Well, yeah,
the new game mode.
That's correct. I mean, you have Dominion as well, but it's still the same game. It's the same engine. It's the same core that they release. They'll update it here and there with better graphics, but they're not quote unquote developing a new AAA title that they have to spend all this money on marketing. They have to spend all this time developing. They have to scratch ideas, look at concept art, and just build it from the ground up, and then release it around a time that makes sense the most for the company and for the consumer. Because sometimes, you look at a schedule around the holidays and you see, wow, every week, every Tuesday, there's a new game coming out, so they have to push it back to like the spring. So that's not the type of development cycle that they have, the type of development team they have. Is this the future for every game yet? I don't think so. I think we're still going to have the AAA title release coming out, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of consumers are really getting sick and tired of the same game being released every year or every 2 years for the same price, $60, when really the studio could have took a couple more years and created a really awesome polished product that could have stood the test of time instead of, well, this was fun for 6 weeks, now it's time for something else.
That actually brings up a pretty interesting point. Sorry to interrupt, but I'd just like to also let everyone know that the radio problem is fixed. We are broadcasting live to the Utica area. Huzzah.
Thanks, Max.
Yay. But there's one thing I'm wondering. You mentioned the point about how people are less willing to buy games that are effectively remakes. I'm wondering a little bit, how much does... you also mentioned the point about how certain developers have to push things back to spring to avoid the glut of games during the holiday push. I'm beginning to wonder just a little, how much of an impact a launch date is going to have anymore as we go on further, especially in MMOs, to games that are designed more for longevity than for anything else. The difference, I think, between movies, which you often see competing for very, very high-profile launch dates, and games, is that games, I think, have somewhat longer longevity, especially MMOs, which are designed to be played ad nauseum. So it makes me wonder, in the long run, how much of an impact do you think a launch date is going to have as we go into the future? Because
the Metacritic and other reviews aren't out yet for the game, and somebody who wants to wait and see what the reviews are compared to somebody of, I don't care what it is, I'm going to buy it that day because I have a week off from school, they're more inclined to buy the game compared to if they push it back or it doesn't matter what the release date is because of reviews that come out. I mean, reviews and accessibility to information on the internet has kind of really changed a little bit too of how games market themselves, and also have kind of post-launch PR control, kind of any kind of damage control. If there's like a huge bug with the game or a huge launch issue. Look at Dead Island, and they released the game on Steam the wrong type. They released the developer code game, not the actual game, and so they had to put out so many fires to do that. And now initially, the first couple hours of the game, there's already issues. That doesn't look good for the longevity of the game, period. Now with the longevity of MMOs, that comes into like friend referral programs and like pets and whatnot that you can use to refer friends, and that's a tool or tactic that those developers use. It's almost like guilt. If I invite a friend to play, I am obligated to keep playing the game with my friend, compared to, well, none of my friends play, so I'm just going to stop playing.
Well, so looking at the way that, oh, I can't believe that I started a sentence and completely forgot what the end of it was.
It happens.
So,
Well, if
I
I
mean-
may interject, I will
Yeah.
bring up the thing I've decided I should be bringing up every single episode, which is Dota 2. And Dota 2 does not have a definite launch date. It's been sort of semi-releasing itself over the past almost a year now.
Perpetual
And-
beta. Yeah.
Well, it's not perpetual. I believe that it is my hunch that they will be moving out of it in about a month after the international.
Okay.
But that's my assessment. And it's in beta and it's currently nearly invite only. But I think that it's not going to hurt for anything, despite not having a solid launch date. And I think that Max raised a good point that games are no longer that do not have their primary sale, the bulk of their sale, or mini games no longer have the bulk of their sales in the first, let's say, month after they're released.
Well, and it's also because of the power of broadband internet. And you have in economics, you have the short tail and the long tail. The short tail is pushing out there out of the game stores to get it out as fast as possible. The long tail is putting it up on Origin or Steam so that anybody can buy it and you have sales later on. So that is way more doable than it was in the 56K modem days. I mean, could you imagine trying to download Half-Life 2 on a 56K modem? That would take 6 weeks. So yeah, so that's changed the game a lot in terms of sell value, retail value. I mean, the only reason why game stores are still open is because they have the trading programs. And you know, when the PS4 in consoles, yeah, and the PS4 and the 3 and the 720 come out, you know, is it going to be necessary to purchase the actual games or just download them from the internet? And then what's more attractive to the people, that the distributors of, hey, we really don't have to distribute this game anymore on discs because we can just set it over the internet. And then the developers realize, hey, we don't really need publishers anymore because we can just develop the game and push it out on Steam ourselves. You know, so the potential for change because of broadband internet is happening here pretty fast. Just a lot of people that don't want to lose money or lose their jobs are trying to hold on to the old ways.
Right. Well, I just want to go back because I finally remembered what I was going to say. You were talking about how reviews can really affect gameplay, or script or purchases. And I have to say that if I had focused and read the reviews, and I probably wouldn't have bought Build Republic. I don't know.
How dare you?
I know, and Jack, I know that you are a diehard fan, but I think that it was not a good MMO. And so let's talk about what made that fail.
Okay.
As an MMO. Let's actually start with Jack. Jack, you think that it didn't fail. You think that it's a great game. What do you think is so great about it?
Well, I don't know if I'd say it didn't fail as an MMO, but it succeeded in a level. But as we mentioned right before the show, I've never been a big MMO person, so that may discount me from being objective on the subject.
But what in particular makes you enjoy this game?
The story, really.
Okay.
It's certainly not the combat. The combat's acceptable, but...
Well, I know you said something similar about the story being, it being a great single-player game.
Yeah.
And which is not high praise for an MMO, I don't think. I think that it's pretty... I really enjoyed playing parts of it. I thought that it did get a little slow at times.
At times.
But I did think that the scenery was beautiful. They did a really good job of immersing you into the game, and then not having anything to hook you, because the PvP was broken, and you had everyone on the Sith side.
Matt, you raise an interesting point. One of the big keys to MMO success in the long term is keeping people playing, keeping content active, fresh, and new. And we've seen a lot of MMOs collapse for that very reason. We saw the Old Republic to some extent collapse because, as you mentioned, PvP was broken. PvE is very limited. We've seen World of Warcraft go through boom and bust cycles because they can't keep content up to date. There was a huge drop off after near the end of Wrath of the Lich King. We're seeing a huge drop off now during Cataclysm.
No. That is simply pre-expansion blues.
All right.
And that's
all right. I'll give you that. But I still think that my overarching point may hold that end-game content is necessary for an MMO. What keeps people playing? What keeps them paying $15 a month? Now, we know that the next WoW expansion is going to include a lot more than just end dungeons, raids, and battlegrounds. They have pet battles. They have the farming minigames.
You mean Pokemon?
Yes, they have Pokemon and farming. They have Pokemon and farming. And what I'm wondering, just what your guys' thoughts are, is how conducive will those be to keeping people playing, and more importantly, keeping people paying?
It will be the same. It will be the same way that Blizzard Dota is going to bring people back into opening up StarCraft again.
It's called Blizzard All Stars now, for the record.
Blizzard All Stars, whatever. Blizzard Dota. I'm going to call it Blizzard Dota.
Go right ahead.
Just because I'm going to be stubborn.
Because that's what it is.
That is what it is.
I played Blizzard Dota before it was cool.
So it's just no. So it's the same thing. The more content that you have, I was watching a streamer, a WoW streamer called his gamer tag is Towley. He's I believe that his entire profession now is just streaming because he has a lot of subscribers and he's doing fairly well. But he made a comment that he is not going to have time to play any other games when Mists of Pandaria comes out because he's going to be leveling a bunch of characters. He's going to be playing Pokemon in WoW, and it's just there's so much to be doing. So, but talking about how endgame content, it didn't really. There wasn't anything when the Old Republic was released. There wasn't enough good endgame content, and Hutball was a great idea, but it was so, I think, poorly executed. Poorly executed in that. So, who here actually has played the Old Republic? Jack, Butch, any of you guys?
I've played it a bit.
Okay, so in Hutball there was an air trap where you would get thrown up into the air
in random directions.
In random directions, and it wasn't like as soon as you stepped over it, it would happen. Maybe it was just because my computer sucked at the time. But, I mean, I would run through it, and it would be a couple seconds later, and then I would be shot up into the air. Or I would be shot up right away. And so, maybe it was my computer, maybe it was just that I don't think that they
like lag to me.
It felt like lag, but I had very good ping, so it might have just been computer lag. Anyway, but that game could have been so fun, but I found it frustrating, partly because for the first week there weren't enough Republic players for me to go against. I couldn't play it because I couldn't, find a group to play against. Wait, no. Hutball you could play against.
Hutball you can play against your own faction.
Yeah. No, it was the other one. What's the other one called?
Battleground kind of things, war zones?
Yeah, what's the other battleground called?
You had the Hoth one, you had Hutball, and you had Alderaan.
The Alderaan one.
Alderaan, yeah. That one, you would get in, 2 Republic players would join, and then you would end the game. And it was just a waste of time.
I must say that it's changed considerably since then. I actually played a couple of those games today, and there were quite a few people.
Jack, were you at the end?
It's because all the servers have been combined.
Yeah.
But
but that's a sign of a dying game. As soon as you have to start combining servers, what they should have done was started with fewer, larger servers instead of these, numerous small servers, which they tried to do, which made sense in order to reduce the queue time, I guess. But anyway, so the thing that we were talking about as being the theme for this show, and we've talked a little bit about MMOs. Let's go into what our hopes and dreams for MMOs could possibly be.
Yes, scare the code monkeys to death.
So scare the code monkeys to death. Good choice in an opening song because of it. So let's now Star Wars: The Old Republic was considered. This is the biggest franchise out there that they're going to make an MMO of. If this does not bring in new people into the MMO genre, then nothing will. Now, I'm not so sure about that. There was a I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name. He said that it was a game reviewer. He said that if Star Wars: The Old Republic cannot bring in new players into the MMO market, then that means that that we've maxed out at what the MMO market will, the number of people in the MMO market.
Yeah, but let's take a step back in history here. Let's look at Star Wars Galaxies. And in order for us to understand the evolution of MMOs and what works and what doesn't, and what LucasArts learned, because they shut down the servers right for Galaxies right before Old Republic opened. Let's look at Galaxies, all right? So this game is released. The hype for it is super incredible. Like, this is a Star Wars MMO. But let's look at where it's placed. It's placed between the 4th and 5th movie, okay? So story-wise, doesn't make sense. How can I build a new adventure, a new story, if I know exactly what's going to happen to the Empire, if I know exactly what's going to happen to Luke, Han, and Leia, and all the other characters I'm going to be with? There's nothing really compelling story-wise for me to understand. And then all of a sudden, everybody can be a Jedi. They just have to find the different holocrons. So now that's what everybody's trying to do, and it's really difficult. Nobody wants to do anything except be a Jedi. The different classes that you have were a lot of fun. You could kind of mix and match. But yeah, it was totally broken, but that was part of the charm of it. To be able to build your own cities was amazing, and to be able to just go into a cantina and talk to people and just hang out and get buffed by dancers. Just a cool little concept. Like, take a break from actually killing stuff, get buffed, talk to some people, form a group, and then go out and kill stuff, right? So it was a lot of fun that way. But what happened was people kept complaining about balance, and in terms of content iteration, they changed the combat. And they changed the combat and pretty much the structure of the game to where Jedis were now a starting class. And if the Jedi is a starting class, everybody's going to want to play a Jedi. One of the biggest successes of Star Wars Galaxies was the expansion Jump to Lightspeed, because that introduced Twitch-type gameplay of in space. And if anybody remembered playing TIE Fighter or X-Wing back in the day on floppy disks, it was like, oh my gosh, I get to do this out of an MMO, and I get to build my own ship and upgrade it, and I can have my friend be a gunner in my Y-Wing. It was just huge. And it was a lot of fun to play, but there was still some issues to where there was no need to play the ground game anymore. Everybody was just up in space. So lessons learned there when it came down to the Old Republic. Once again, they put it into a storyline that doesn't make sense. It's 300 years after the time of Revan, so it's 300 years too late for us to care about anything. And it's thousands of years before the movies, yet all of the technology is pretty much the same, right? So it's kind of laughable being able to do everything you can thousands of years before, or at least 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, right? Before the 4th movie. So once you're dropped into that scenario, you're discovering things, you're checking stuff out, but part of me is realizing none of this is going to matter because of how the story plays out in episode 4, 5, and 6, right? That's what happens to the Sith and the Empire. They all get destroyed. But another success was the what if. What if I could be a Sith but a good guy? And I would contemplate that in my mind and have like Star Wars theology in my mind of like, what is the Sith, what are the Jedi, and thinking the Jedi are corrupt, the Jedi is a bureaucracy, they're not good, like they limit love, they limit all these things, and they screw up with people's lives. And when I got to play a Sith but I chose the light side, all of those themes were highlighted in the game, all of them, and it was so beautifully written and well done. So that is what they accomplished. They took the success of telling a story from BioWare and they put it in all these different scenarios and characters that you could play. However, that's what they banked on. They thought, well, if you play through it as a Sith warrior, you're going to want to play it again as a bounty hunter. You're going to want to play it again as a Jedi Guardian. No, most people don't want to grind through another character on an MMO. They want to stick to one character and go through the adventure in that one character. And that's what BioWare made its biggest mistake on. They thought the replay value and the subscription value would be people would want to play the other classes and see the stories, and that's not the case. I only want to go through an MMO one time with one character. And so what did you do when you were level 60? You fought the same boss over and over again for better gear. And And what does that better gear give you? Better numbers. What does that better numbers do? It allows you to hit a boss with higher numbers with better numbers, and it just becomes a math game over and over again.
That is true. That is true of every, MMO that I can pick up.
Well,
at the max level. But
at the max level.
I think that the problem there was that it was one boss. That
Exactly.
It wasn't a number of different bosses, where each one was difficult because of so I've been watching a few of the Miss Pandaria streams, and what they're doing is they're making the boss fights really interactive. It's not just how hard can you hit this boss. It's there's one boss that disappears, and you have to find the boss that is now invisible before you can start attacking again, and it's just they add a lot of variety instead of just tank and spank.
Yeah. Well, this goes into what do we want out of an MMO, and to me, story is really important. I want to be in a world where I feel like I'm actually part of a story, or I'm seeing a story unfold in front of me. I don't have to have voice actors for that. It can be text. Now, I would prefer something a little more animated compared to just reading a scroll every time for World of Warcraft. But I find that if I am exploring a world for the first time, or having a journey, or being part of a journey and going on a journey, it's the same as reading a novel. I mean, you're going on a journey with these characters, and you're experiencing something that's amazing, and you're in this world, and you can interact with this world. So that's what MMOs do, is you have that interaction, but you can play with your friends. You can interact with so many different people. But
for those of us that have played through Wrath of the Lich King, the Wrathgate questline was so amazing. Clutch, did you play?
I did. I stopped playing WoW after Wrath of the Lich King. I think I played Cataclysm for about 5 minutes and realized, what am I doing? And stopped.
Yeah. Well, I got to 85, and I have not left someone since. I've just been, making gold. But the Wrathgate questline was so good because it was unlike all the other quest lines where they had the cinematics and they had the when the characters in there die and you see the other characters in the game react to that. Yeah. And that was moving, and I thought that was something good about to an extent about the Old Republic. But one of the things that I think that it was probably the best thing about the Old Republic was something you were talking about earlier, the light side dark side meter. You could be a light side Sith or a dark side Jedi. And I can't believe I said Jedi. Anyway, there was a. I also played the light side Sith. I only got to like level 30, but anyway, it was so neat having that, where you could sort of go back and forth. What I would have liked, and this we'll get into in a second when we talk about Harry Potter idea, of what if the factions were based off of light and dark side? Now, I think that would have gone, flown in the face of the storyline of the Old Republic, because the point was, hey, the Sith are not evil, the Republic are not holy. So I really want, because we've already been on this topic for half an hour, really want to get us into this, what MMOs can be. Okay. So let's start with the Harry Potter MMO. Now, Max, Elliot, Rob, Jack, you've all seen the discussion on this, because
not all of it, but I've seen most of it.
Well, you've seen most of it. Because it was on my Facebook wall, and there are 30 comments, and I'm not going to go into it all. But here's sort of the gist of of the way that I was thinking about it. So, if you have a Harry Potter MMO, you are, inherent. Or why did I think Harry Potter MMO? Let's start with that. Harry Potter MMO, because Harry Potter has sold. It is the best-selling series of all time of novels.
Yeah, it's an already established universe.
It's an already established universe with plenty of possibility, because there's only 7 years of that universe that have been explored. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I know when I turned 11, I really wanted to get my letter from Hogwarts, and I was really disappointed when I didn't.
Mine got lost.
Well,
sure, and Santa's real.
It,
Of course
yes,
he's
he
real,
is,
Max.
and Max, there
Get out.
may be children listening. You're mean. So, anyway, and I'm one of those children. Anyway, so, I mean, I was so disappointed when I didn't get that, and I think that one of the coolest things, I don't really like theme parks. I like amusement parks. I like roller coasters. I thought that the Wizarding World in Orlando, I haven't been there yet, but it's the only theme park that I want to go to, because
it's my
I
reason
want
to go
be
to Florida.
exactly. Well, I have other reasons that I want to go to Florida. I want to see Toby, because Toby Sherman is an awesome dude. For all of you that
He
missed
is.
his interview on the Weekly Nerd a few months back. I don't know if you can check it out anywhere online, but if not, go follow EMG Tumba on Twitter, because he's awesome.
Luis probably has the archive of it, actually.
So apparently we do have an archive of it. I'll make sure that we get it on YouTube. So it's an established universe. It is a universe that is loved by an age group that has, that is currently at a place where they would have possibly the time and money to put into an MMO. So how would it work? What I was thinking, and you can all pick this apart and tell me how I'm wrong. You start out level 1, entering Hogwarts.
When?
So, well, there were two ideas that were brought up on my Facebook wall. One, just, right before Harry is born. Now, I thought that was a bad idea, because it's sort of what you were saying about Star Wars Galaxies. You know how that story ends.
Yep.
No
more prequels, man. No more prequels.
Yeah.
We learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
The thing that I was thinking was, 20 years, 30 years after the books are set, not so long that, Harry isn't still around and he's an NPC that you can interact with. And he's,
Headmaster of Hogwarts. That'd be cool.
Yeah, Headmaster of Hogwarts, or in the Auror's office telling people to, go and, hey, we've got do this and that.
I wonder, Matt, do you think about the possibility of having it set during Grindelwald's time? There's so much there on Explore that it could...
Nope.
That is,
Nope.
Again,
no prequels.
Exactly what Clutch was saying earlier. If you have a prequel, you know how it ends. And that's one of the things that I think WoW did well. It is a progression of the storyline of Warcraft 1, 2, and 3.
Have you? Well, I would just want to give my argument for the Grindelwald era.
Okay.
Do you remember Lord of the Rings Online? You couldn't, except in Monster Play, you couldn't play as the evil faction. You could only play as the good faction, and I think you can do something a little similar with that. And to incorporate your light-dark choices, remember that Dumbledore waited a very long time for engaging Grindelwald because of everything that happened in the 7th book, which I shall not spoil. So what...
Oh, come on. It's been like 7 years.
You'd be
Is it really
surprised,
that long?
man.
Yeah, so what you could possibly do for that is something to the effect...
Dumbledore.
Moving on. What you could possibly do for that is keep your light-dark idea, and work that through by having people who support Dumbledore not getting involved, or supporting people taking the fight to the enemy, for lack of a
But
better
you already know who wins. You already know who wins.
Why do you have to tell that story? Why can't you have an unrelated story about?
I'm just throwing out a possibility. Last resort steampunk.
I think if we're gonna have a successful Harry Potter MMO, I don't think we have to work within the storyline of Harry Potter itself. I think we need to work within the universe
Exactly.
of Harry Potter. We can't deal with the story. Like Matt and Max have both said in different ways, there is so much stuff there. It's so rich. J.K. Rowling built this beautiful thing, and even after Voldemort and before Voldemort, there's going to be dark magic. And I think what would be kind of an interesting way of doing it is, from the beginning of the game, you choose what school you go to, not just Hogwarts, but you can, and depending on where you go with that, you can go to, what was the name of the school that Crumb went to?
That was Drumstrong, and then you had Audubon's for the French.
I want to go where all the chicks. I want to go where all
go
the
to,
the French chicks, man. I want to go to that school.
Yeah, so you can exactly. You can go to Durmstrang to learn more dark magic and curses. You can go to Hogwarts for learning
They'd be your and Mario kind of thing.
Personally,
Yeah, I'm
my point of view on
overthinking it, but
that-
like from there you can choose where you're going after your 7 years at Hogwarts.
I
That'd
think
be interesting.
That's the problem there, and this is the problem. Do have learning curves. If you jump into a new character, a pre-built character at the max level, you're totally screwed.
True.
And you want people learning at the same rate. You want people, and I think that having sort of the starting zones, with quotes around that, as Hogwarts, everyone is in Hogwarts, everyone is, sort of going through and learning the first few levels, I think that would be neat. Now, if you have to design, 3 different massive starting zones, because no one is going to want to go to Hogwarts and not be able to explore Hogwarts. Sure. Hogwarts is going to have to be, there are sections of Hogwarts which we have never heard of in the books. So, you get there, level 1, you choose what house you're in. Your house acts as your faction for the first X number of levels.
Oh,
It also provides you with a bonus, a long-term bonus. So, for example, if you're in Slytherin, you get a bonus to potion making. If you are in, Ravenclaw, you get a bonus to, either charms. But the thing is that charms, in my point of view on how this game would work, would actually be a class of offensive spells. So you wouldn't want that to be where potions would be sort of
Profession.
a profession. So maybe.
So profession propensity kind of thing. I
Yeah.
know I'm using horrible English here.
No, it's increased stats toward a profession or whatever. I think that they did that really well in WoW. So this is where I'm bringing in WoW, and I think that they made the professions really, really well done. I think the thing that would work in from the Old Republic, you take a look at their the light side, dark side stuff, and once you exit Hogwarts, that's where light side and dark side decide your faction, and you can switch back and forth depending upon your actions.
How long
And
would
I-
it take for people to
like
switch
half-
sides?
It would be a grind. It would need to be. You can't. If
Okay.
you can switch sides at any time, then that's not a.
Yeah,
And that's not a faction.
yeah. It sounds like
this-
you're comparing
this-
it to the Aldor Scryer grind from Burning Crusade.
This is where I'm kind of disagreeing with here, Matt. I like a lot of the ideas that you started with, but with the idea of switching around factions, I think one of the things that has made me interested in the very few MMOs that I've been interested in, City of Heroes or City of Villains was kind of the only MMO that's really kept my interest for a really long period of time. I don't know why, but it's the whole idea of having the decisions you've made for your character be yours, whether it's something about changing the appeal, changing the look or the powers they have. It's all about being able to have your character, and I think being able to switch factions, whether it's by a grind or by that, is kind of arbitrary. I think it should be not really about factions, but more about where, how do I put this? I don't think there should be factions, because after.
Well, then how do you conduct, say, a PvP well, okay.
Just fight all the things, man. Just fight everybody.
So we've got Elliot with the Lord of the Rings Online method and Clutch with the Warhammer Online method. I feel like we can find some kind of hacking.
Well, what does PvP do? Like, what does faction separation do? Story. It's another story arc of you, or either you're on this side or that side, and that can be either exhilarating story-wise or very limiting story-wise. And what do you have in Harry Potter, an established universe, is you have all the light side people, if you will, all the good wizards at school for the most part, except for 6 kids in Slytherin that are evil. And then everybody else has to hide in the shadows, unless they're rich. So, Death Eaters, you can't be a Death Eater walking around the city all the time. Yo, I'm a Death Eater, son! And you'll just get captured all the time, if this is supposed to follow, the universe of Harry Potter, right? So, if we're trying to build this MMO, we have to understand why we want to build factions. What's the purpose? if we can just PvP with anybody, if you can duel anybody.
Well, okay, so here's my my first thought on this, is that one of the major themes of Harry Potter is good versus evil. It's a theme that there are a lot of people that are really against it, and then there are a lot of people that are really, really for it. You see the good versus evil dynamic in a lot of different things. You know, what about... I think that one of the movies in the past few years, the Dark Knight trilogy, is unapologetically good versus evil, which is rare, I think, in Hollywood these days, because they've been trying to, you know, use moral relativism and everything. But I think that that's one of the most important things about the Harry Potter series, is this good versus evil dynamic. Now, it does, of course, limit it. It does mean that, you know, this is good, this is bad, you choose good or bad. You don't choose, you know, being a good guy who's just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
If I may interject.
What's stopping everyone from being a Death Eater, though, if you're having factions in good versus
Exactly, man. Everybody wants to play the bad guy. Everybody wanted to play Sith in the Old Republic because we're sick of seeing Jedi all the time. What are the Sith like?
If I may interject a little on this one, I think the issue with one of the issues with the Old Republic is that Sith are known figures. We've seen Sith through Star Wars, and pretty much all of them in the movies have been amazing.
We know, no, we saw a remnant of the Sith, not the Sith Empire, which we keep hearing all the time about.
Right, so what I'm possibly thinking is, if we do it in a post-Voldemort world, we're still going to be dealing with a lot of characters left over. So the problem that you've discussed will arise. People may want to go for the bad side. Let's take this back, not Grindelwald back, but even farther back. Way back, we can do medieval, we can do earlier colonial era, we can do anything around there. That means we have a bunch of characters we know nothing about. We maybe have a couple of names from Chocolate Frog cards, a couple of headmasters known. That allows us to do almost anything. I'm trying to make a comparison.
Max,
to Knights
why
of
do
the
we have to go back? Why do we have to go back? Why can't we go 100 years forward?
That
if
too.
we go back, we know
because
how
at
it
least
ends.
if you go forward, then you have this really meaty foundation to start on that J.K. Rowling built. If you go back in time, you're completely washed away everything that we know for certain.
No, yes, you do. You have to take things. You have to take things out. If you don't, then you're completely messing up. One of the problems that Clutch was talking about earlier with what happened to Jack?
He had to go.
Yeah.
Bye, Jack.
Well, Jack left. I'm sorry. One of the things that Clutch was saying earlier was that look at the technology in the Old Republic and in Star Wars Episode 4. It's the same.
But magic, you don't have to deal with that.
Yes, you do.
New spells, new potions, new creatures being discovered.
Sorry, I got a little excited there.
Why do we have to keep going in the past? Patton Oswalt does a great stand-up about this. If he met George Lucas on the street corner, and he's like, "Oh man, I love Star Wars. I love Darth Vader. I love that big black costume and the lightsaber. It's amazing." And George Lucas is like, "Hey, if you want to see some more Star Wars movies?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, that'd be freaking amazing. That'd be awesome." And he's like, "Oh, how about if you meet Darth Vader, but he's a kid?" Like, no, I was like, I wanted to kind of see him as, in the black cape. I mean, he's dead, so maybe somebody else, or see what happens to him after something. Oh, okay. Well, you like Boba Fett? Yeah, man, I love Boba Fett. I love Boba Fett. I mean, with the helmet and the ship, he was awesome. Well, in the next movie, you get to see him as a kid.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't care where it comes from. I just want to see the result of it being amazing. And once that has happened in a story, I want to see the aftermath and see what happens next. Not.
Okay. Then what's the difference between people's distaste for the prequels and love for something like Knights of the Old Republic, which is just set even farther back? What difference do you see between those two?
Because
one was done crappily, one was done well.
Yeah.
No, because Knights of the Old Republic, did something that hadn't been done in the Star Wars universe before.
Okay.
And it went back far enough, it created a story, and it didn't. And then you look at the Old Republic, and it's just sort of after that and before the other one, and you're in between. If you look, what's it called? If you look at Harry Potter, we do know the history of Harry Potter. Technically, it's Earth's history.
Okay, but there's one key aspect though. The Muggles. How do you handle them if you do it in the modern, if you do it in the future? How do they come into play? That's one of the big things I'm wondering. The Statue of Secrecy is a theme that's expanded upon now and again during the books.
And you either, there are plenty of ways to deal with that. You can
Stealth quests don't have the Muggles see you.
or you can have,
That would
penalties
be
if
such a
Muggles
pain.
see you, or you could have, NPCs that are from the Ministry apparate in every time that you have, you perform magic in front of Muggles and they wipe their memories, or you could just not program in the Muggle areas.
This might just be my preference, but the Statue of Secrecy and the whole political aspects are some of my favorite parts of Harry Potter, so I might just be trying to trump my own parts.
Hey,
here.
no, I think that I think it would be really interesting if, 3 expansions in, they said, hey, we're going to reveal ourselves to the Muggles. And then the Muggles, who have, AK-47s and nukes, decide, wait a second.
Sounds like the Salvation War all over again.
We
They should make an MMO back.
We have things that these people, Okay,
See that, but that Dak, that's something that's so compelling. That's something I want to play, and then you could like your quests and then how you decide what quest you choose or whatnot will be kind of like what side are you on? Do you want to reveal yourselves to the Muggles to ally with them, or maybe the Muggles found out and one of them panicked and blew up one of the schools, and so half the people think we have to make the Muggles our slaves.
That'd be an awesome storyline to do.
That would be amazing. I mean, keep in mind,
that's where you introduce factions. That's where it becomes interesting.
Keep in mind that this is a world where problem solving ceases to exist. If it cannot be solved by I'm just quoting from crack.com, but anyway, if it cannot be solved from magic, it is not solved. So these are people with a third grader's understanding of history and geography, and they go into school just to learn magic. They don't learn history. They don't learn politics. They don't learn mathematics. They don't learn science. They go up against a nuclear weapon. Doesn't matter if you have a wand. You don't know what a nuclear weapon is. You see this thing coming at you, and it incinerates you. Now it incinerates everything within a few miles as well.
Wingardium Leviosa is not going to work against a nuke, man. Period. It's just
exactly.
It's a megaton.
That's called off.
Yeah.
And so, but one of the things that a Harry Potter MMO would be able to do is it gets you into the things that I really wish J.K. Rowling had gotten into. Things like, how are spells learned? They're not just learned. They're, you go to class, you have to study the theory. I think that would be, a real pain if you actually had people have to learn the theory behind transfiguring things. But you have it in the lore, and it's a place where you can go and find that out.
And wand lore. What about all that? What about like all these classes that Hermione took that we never saw and never even heard about?
And so now this gets into the classes. This gets into the next thing. How do you separate different, what we would call MMOs, the different classes in an MMO? The warrior, the mage, the priest. Well, in Harry Potter, you're all mages. What are you going to do? Well, the way that you do that is, I think that it's pretty simple, actually. Have any of you played Rift?
It's one I haven't played.
Watched gameplay of it.
Okay. Rift. I thought that something that they did a good job with, which they should have tweaked it a little differently, allowed you to experiment more before you got in, was when you select a class, you get to choose 3 different subclasses from which you get to. That's where your talents come from, out of like 8 different subclasses. So you can roll a bard and be a tank, or be a damage dealer, or be a healer, all based on your talents. So you roll in as, I'm Dak, or I'm Matt Dak in Harry Potter, because that's what anyway. And I have, I'm now in Ravenclaw, and I'm going to my classes, but I'm not, sitting there and learning classes. I'm completing quests, and as I level up, I get to mix and match what is my, quote, favorite class. And that is my talent tree. and then you graduate from. You take your newts at the end of your time at Hogwarts, and you decide on 3 different classes which were your favorite, and you earn newts in them, and those are your 3 talent trees.
Sounds vaguely like Guild Wars in a way as well, just the way being able to pick between different trees throughout time. In Guild Wars, you could start with one class, add another to it later on. This seems somewhat similar.
It's sort of similar. I'm not talking about having a set talent tree because
Right.
you started out as X. Everyone starts out as a wizard. You don't really want to start out.
You're a wizard, Harry. Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
having a Muggle in the game, if you have Muggle sections and you bring up the whole Muggle war plot, I think could get really interesting.
Ooh, well, then it
Like,
becomes.
but then you're
yeah.
just being yourself in a game. That's
Yeah,
I don't know about
no,
yourself.
no. That becomes I'm gonna go and shoot wizards, and I don't know.
that
I know
becomes
the problem
heartbreaking
with
pretty
that.
fast.
Magic equality. We will equalize the world.
Yeah.
I wonder
I mean,
where I
but-
heard
but-
that storyline from.
Everywhere.
Anyway, so I don't know. I think that you start out, everyone is technically the same class, but their builds depend on. Hey, I really liked the Transfiguration build, or I really like Defense Against the Dark Arts. That is my tank build. If I study Defense Against the Dark Arts, I'm not just learning how to wave a wand around. I'm learning how to put shields on myself and to get the attention of the boss, and how to debuff the boss. And I actually enchant this like physical shield, which I use in protecting myself.
Let's take a step back here. Do we have to have DPS, tank, healer? Is that the standard of MMOs? Do we have to have that?
I would say DPS, tank, healer, debuff. Yes. I really wish. So originally in WoW, the Warlock was supposed to be the debuff class. It turned into the mage. It just turned into a damage over time mage instead of a burst damage mage. They were situationally. They were each better in different situations. So yes, Clutch, I think that it is. You do need that
because it's a lot of different developers say like we're getting away from the holy trinity of tank, DPS, and healer, and I think well that's great, but how? Like what else is there?
If you don't have, here's the problem: if you don't have rigidly defined roles, then people don't know how to play. I think that
but we have. The thing is that what we're forgetting is that all this stuff that we've come to know as common knowledge, we had to learn that once upon a time too. Gamers aren't stupid. We can learn something.
I'm not saying that we're stupid. I'm saying that it's one of the most difficult things about Rift was that the roles were not as rigidly defined, because you could roll a bard and not know necessarily that you should be, what. If I'm in WoW and I play a rogue, I know that these specific talents are the best if I want to do the most damage. And yes, that in some ways that's not good. And Blizzard is trying to get away from that in Mists of Pandaria. But I still think that min-maxing is an important thing for hardcore players. Now, I don't think that you should focus a game towards hardcore players. I think that the people that say that are selfish and don't know what they're talking about, because I think it's much better that the game make a lot of money and the developers keep working on it than it to fail because only the hardcore players play. So I can't see any way around having those, maybe if everyone, it would be interesting to have, maybe a system where everyone did all 3 roles. In every boss fight, there was it was instead of threat, he went alphabetically through the different characters, and you had to switch between, DPS and tanking and healing every single fight. That might be interesting, except it would be so difficult that, I know that I'm a terrible tank. I'm a pretty good DPSer and healer, because, Anyway, I used to always play with a trackpad, so I couldn't and you know
Balls.
no, I mean I didn't have I didn't have a mouse for first 5 years that I played WoW. I would use my trackpad and I would tab to select targets. If I were tanking, that would be terrible because if a mob is attacking one of my allies, I need to be able to click on it and get its attention. Anyway, that's just me sucking. So, is there a way around those 3, maybe 4 classes? Anyway.
I don't know if there is. I honestly don't know. You can have different variations. That's what we saw in Terra. You know, you had a lot of different classes, but basically it would always come down to when you're in a group. All right, who's a tank, who's a healer, and everybody else does damage, right? Maybe Blizzard will change it in Titan, but it was so solidified in World of Warcraft, and, you know, even in EverQuest of what those different classes did, what a group did. I mean, it comes down to like Final Fantasy almost, man, is sometimes you just have the designated hero that would use Phoenix Downs and potions when it was their turn. So, may have to take a smarter mind than mine to try to figure out a way for an MMO, a massive multiplayer online type of game, to work when you're facing a boss where it's not tank, DPS, and healing.
I mean, I think that Harry Potter would be a perfect place for tank, DPS, and healing. I think that it'd be a really neat. You'd be able to explore a lot of different branches of magic that you haven't seen before. I think that you would debuffs or a debuff class might actually be interesting. You know, you go through Hogwarts. Your favorite class was Transfiguration, and that is a debuff class. Every time you turn you try to turn the boss into a newt. And he turned me into a newt. Got better. I think that it would be. I don't know. Anyways, so you leave Hogwarts, you get out into the world, and you are choosing a side. That was my original thinking. But you know, maybe you don't do that. Maybe just exploring the world. But if you are just exploring the world, then there doesn't feel like there's anything that you're striving towards.
Well, what's the goal? That's the biggest thing about MMOs is they don't have an end goal. They don't have a vision. They only have the journey, which is amazing. But a journey is only worthwhile in its totality when there's a destination. If there is no destination except level 60 or level whatever, what's the end game? So what would be the end game? If we had this Harry Potter game, okay, you started as a kid, you're in Hogwarts, what's the end game of the journey?
Any ideas?
I think a really interesting way of doing a Harry Potter MMO is simply just to live the life of a wizard, not have classes, not have classes at school, but not to have those like stringent compartmentalization. Thank you. I've been having trouble speaking lately.
So it's okay, man.
Not have that those categories so clearly cut out, but just to live your dream life as a wizard. Is that a weird idea? I mean, no one's done an MMO like that for a long time.
Well, the problem with that is that people that if you do that, then it turns into a game where it turns into a Farmville where you log in to do these things.
It's Animal Crossing with magic.
Exactly. It's not. You're not compelled to log in because I'm going to find something new. I'm going to get some new loot, or I'm going to down this boss, or I'm going to get this new reputation. If you're just sort of living the life of the wizard, okay, I'm going to go to the store today, and I'm going to apparate there, and that's going to be cool. And then I might, duel someone. I don't know.
Make some potions.
Yeah, go to a Quidditch match.
Go to St. Mungo's if you're a healer.
Yeah, no, I just think that you gotta. One of the things about MMOs, and Secret World is getting away from this, but I'm not sure that the Secret World will be able to hold people's attention because of it. I think one of the things about MMOs is you have to be the hero. Everyone has to tell you you're special. Everyone has to say, hey, you're the one that's going to save us. WoW is sort of getting away with that, or getting away from that, with Thrall now being the hero, and I hate that. I'm gonna go. This is my rant for the show. Yes, here's the rant. I every show I have a rant, and
Yes,
here's my
yes.
rant.
Fine.
My rant is Thrall is the worst hero that they could have possibly chosen. They did not choose Varian Rin because Varian Rin is George Bush.
Excuse me?
Varian Rin in World of Warcraft is George Bush. He is the guy who, is, he's attacked, and he has the will to say, I'm not going to take this anymore, and I'm going to go and I can't swear on the radio, but smack people. That's the way that it's going to work.
How does that make him?
And you know what? In my head, it does. And so you get to the point where there's this point in Wrath of the Lich King where in the Wrathgate storyline where Varian Rin's best friend dies. The guy who raised his son while he was in prison, while Varian Rin was in prison.
By the Horde.
And his best friend dies. He goes on a rampage, killing people in the enemy city, and everyone on the internet, every single Horde apologist, every single left-wing hippie,
How do you
talked
conflate-
about
how do you
every
conflate-
no. Listen to me. Every single left-wing hippie went on about how
How did we get into this
he was a
conversation?
warmongering, Anyway,
Okay, how do you conflate Horde apologists, the Horde, the militarists, Garrosh,
anyway.
with
So
left-wing
okay.
hippies?
Well-
Garrosh, who burns Theramore to the ground.
You know-
versus Pandaria.
You know what the end game for WoW was? It was Arthas. It was Arthas, and it was Arthas because the universe, and WoW did it right. WoW, that's why it was so popular, is it took the end of Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne. The last moment you see is Arthas taking the throne, putting on the helmet, the echoing cries of his countrymen and people that he knew, warning him not to do it. Just beautiful cinematic, right? And that's it. It ends. The credits roll. And then Blizzard comes out later of, guess what? You're going to be in the world after this has happened, and we're all going to figure it out together. And that's what you did. It was amazing. The story unfolded. And it moved into Illidan, and it moved into the Burning Crusade and the other two races that you could play. So, this is neat. The Blood Elves are still there and whatnot, and the Draenei, which they kind of retconned some things. And then it went into the Arthas, the Wrath of the Lich King. Finally, this guy that was the pinnacle, the heart of the story of Warcraft 3, seeing somebody fall tragically. And now we get to defeat him, and you defeat him, and that's it. That should have been the end. Done. The story's over. No more Warcraft for a while, right? But then we're like, wait a second. We're going to throw in some dragons. So they threw in some dragons.
Deathwing was
And now, well, I know Deathwing was in there, but it's like you could have done it in a different way earlier. And now they're going to throw pandas at us.
Well, now they're putting in a joke, what was literally supposed to be a joke, and making it into a storyline. And now I think that they're doing a lot of things in Mists of Pandaria that are going to be really neat and really expanding the gameplay and making it so that when you are bored of just grinding out reputation, you can go and do these other things, and hopefully that will keep people in. Now I know that one of the hardest things with MMOs is that as soon as your friends leave, everyone leaves.
Yeah.
I don't want to play if I'm with my friends. But anyway, so
I just want to make it defensive of Blizzard's actions in the last couple of expansions and just argue a little from their side of it.
Money.
Excuse me?
Money. Sorry.
A little of that, but Breath of the Lich King was good. It had a great story. I think we can all agree on that. Cataclysm, I think the issue people have with Deathwing is that he didn't have as much of a connection. Most people who started WoW probably played Warcraft 3. Warcraft 2 was back in the 90s. I think there was a release in 2001, but for the most part it was back in the 90s, and Deathwing is more of a force of nature. The old gods were there in their high council of evil and illusion and doom that none of us saw. But do you remember Warcraft 3? They introduced a new content wholesale, Kalimdor. 2 new races, Night Elves, Undead. I think even Northrend was new. Why are we giving them the benefit of the doubt with Kalimdor and Northrend, and yet going at them all out because of Pandaria?
well, I think that
because the story expansion felt right. The Pandarian Brewmaster was has been used as an April Fool's joke. Yeah, it was a character to play, but it itself was not like a core to the story at all. The pandas didn't have any interwoven historical setting to the game. Now, if they do, and it's the biggest surprise yet, if they were, behind Kel'Thuzad and everybody going nuts, then whoa, I am incorrect. But that's not going to be the case. It's just going to try to what kind of dire situation are the pandas going through that could be worse than Arthas or worse than Deathwing?
Yeah. Well, apparently, so I've only played a little bit of the beta, but apparently what they're really focusing on is the differences between the Horde and the Alliance and the political issues that are, and I think that's neat. I think that really stressing that these are two enemies. In Wrath of the Lich King, they were effectively allies. Same thing in Burning Crusade, where in both times you had the sanctuary cities where everyone would sit there and you'd be there right next to a Tauren.
And you can't communicate to them, which was lame. I thought it was super lame. You couldn't communicate to each other.
Well, I mean, originally you could when the undead could translate because they spoke both Common and Orcish and Gutter Speak. And so, I mean, I don't know. That was, yeah, no, I agree. I wish that you could have communicated with them. We have 45 minutes left in the show, and we have so much to talk about. So unless we have more ideas on how a Harry Potter MMO would work, I want to go into the thing that I have been dreaming about since my first ever video game addiction.
What is that?
So wait, do we have any other comments on a Harry Potter MMO? On any final thoughts? Just let's wrap up. Last thoughts. Let's start with Max. What are your last thoughts on this?
Well, to be honest, the big thing that Harry Potter MMO could go so right, and yet it could go so wrong it isn't even funny. We could see one of the greatest games ever made. It could be a tremendous flop. I feel like the discussions we've had now, if some developer were listening, they'd have to take that as a very, 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 very rough start to a couple of small areas. This is not a short project. This is not something that can be churned out quickly. You need a long-term effort for this to get everything. This would be a huge undertaking and could go wrong so easily.
Elliot.
I think with a Harry Potter MMO, what Max said is very true. It can go in either direction, but it might even be that we're not even at the right jumping point for a Harry Potter MMO. What made World of Warcraft so successful is that, like what Clutch was saying earlier, was that it jumped off this really dramatic point that everyone could unite under. And Harry Potter is currently at a point in its universe where everything's kind of neatly tied in a bow. Even though there is this massive universe to explore, maybe there will be a TV show that they'll have where it'll end or things will go off, or they'll make another action-adventure game around the Harry Potter universe where at that point they can leap off for an MMO. But for something like this to occur, you're really gonna have to we're really gonna have to diversify the way we think about MMOs and not try and make it as conventional as World of Warcraft clones are gonna be. It's gonna have to be really different for it to work, in my opinion.
Robert?
I think it's important to remember that this won't ever happen, because I think that J.K. Rowling has not displayed any interest in this sort of thing, and Harry Potter has always very much been just the Harry Potter books, and like 4-7, and then they made movies, and so I don't think they're really looking into games. But that said, I think that if it did happen, I think something that you might have to adapt with is the good and evil dichotomy, because I think in most popular MMOs, and this is in my area of expertise, but I think that it's not strictly a good side and an evil side. Mm-hmm. Like the Horde and the Alliance, like the Alliance is sort of more good guys, but they're not like really evil. And so I think if you introduce just good and evil, then people either want to play good or you want to play evil. Right. And that leads to various problems. So I think that a more morally ambiguous setting might be appropriate for the game, but on the other hand, you might lose some of the Harry Potter fans who enjoyed the morally absolute parts of Harry Potter.
Clutch, final word.
Just as the episode with Jaina Proudmoore and Thrall happened in Warcraft, where they cared for each other, I don't know if it's purely platonic or if there is something deeper. That undertone of almost this kind of racism of the humans against the orcs and vice versa in the war that has happened, that story is still being told in World of Warcraft and is carried over into the Alliance versus Horde. And so those roots are pretty deep, but there has to be some sort of resolution to that, and that's why we keep playing, that's why we keep fighting. We want to find a resolution to that. So in Harry Potter, the only way for me it could work story-wise, that'd be compelling for people to play it, is the undertone kind of racism, us versus them, of people that know magic against muggles that don't. And I'm not saying that you have to play muggles, but there has to be some sort of conflict. Some sort of conflict on a global scale, on a world scale, on an MMO scale, that you could gather together with your buddies, take a stand, and see what happens when you try to address the conflict. And hey, if they could connect it somehow with Connect, and you could use the wand to cast spells and whatnot, that'd mean no more fat kids, so I'm all for it.
That is a good point.
Right, and I think that's a good. Right, and I think now.
Well
Yes.
said.
And I think now is a good point to move to a quick music break.
All right, well,
Right.
thank you all for listening. We will be right back on 88.7 WHCL.
In New York. And to add to that, today is the 2-year anniversary of StarCraft 2. Wings of Liberty launched 2 years ago today. Think about that as we play something completely unrelated, Baba Yetu from Christopher Tin's Calling All Daughters.
So I think that as Jeremy and StarCraft 2 came out, they're like, yeah, we're going to release an expansion every year and a half. How'd that turn out?
Wah, wah. It's Blizzard. They patented the delay.
Okay, I think this is something that has been bothering me. People have been talking about how, oh, Activision made, okay, 3 minutes, 15 seconds, okay, good. Activision has somehow dumbed down Blizzard. I think that is
an absolutely horrible statement. It's
well,
so
no,
wrong.
I mean, I think that there is merit to the idea, but I think the problem is that people are assuming that Activision has such massive say over what happens to Blizzard. Blizzard, it's not Activision on the stock; it's Activision Blizzard.
Mhm.
The reason that they changed the name on the stock ticker is because they wanted to bring all the Blizzard investors in, not the Vivendi investors. Blizzard has a huge say over what it does itself. Activision is a publisher. It does not decide, I don't know.
I feel like if Activision had a really big say in what Blizzard put into their games, their name, their advertising would come up in their games, which it hasn't. That kind of shows to me like financially there's not a lot really going.
As an insider, I will tell you that when your music games don't sell, and the only thing you have going for you is Call of Duty, you have to rely on the subscribers of WoW for a little while, and that's the kind of relationship that they have.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, yeah. No, that's a good point.
And it's not good.
I mean, their stock has been shaky. I remember about it. I guess a year ago or so, probably a little over that. I remember reading on a number of financial blogs saying, buy this now. It is a great investment. And since then, I have seen almost no talk of it financially.
Well, the last report I saw, which was a couple weeks ago, is that the stock is following the same technological trends. So it's not going higher than trends, not following trends, it's doing just fine. EA, however, has taken a huge dive, real bad dive, and I think it hasn't recovered yet.
I don't think I've really heard EA's name really talked about for a really long time.
don't buy it. It's because, the last big report that came out from them is they were voted the worst company of all time, well, of the year. Period. Worst company of the year.
We've got
They
30
were
seconds.
huge back in the day. Holy crap. How does that happen?
When we get back in Pokemon MMO, and then first off, why it'll never happen. But we have, what, 10 seconds?
We'll get another little blip when it's at something like that.
You guys are getting blip sound?
No, well, I'm hearing a blip sound. But I feel like Max will give us a heads up when it's 10 seconds.
Well,
And that was Baba Yetu from Calling All Dawns. Calling All Dawns was probably one of the first video game-related albums to actually win a Grammy for Best Classical Crossover Album a couple of years ago. Baba Yetu itself actually took the Grammy for Best Instrumental Arrangement accompanying vocalists. Now, what's interesting about this is that it's part of the Humble Indie Music Bundle, a new bundle by the Humble Bundle Group, who put out games, indie games at very nice prices. It's a pay-what-you-want system, wherein you can just pay whatever sum of money you want, from 1 cent to $10,000, as Notch from Minecraft did, and you effectively get the bundle, which usually includes soundtracks, Steam keys, and lots of goodies. This one includes a bunch of music tracks from a bunch of great artists: Jonathan Colton, They Might Be Giants, Christopher Tin, and I highly recommend it. Check it out at humblebundle.com. I know I'm going to add another topic, but I just want to get your thoughts really quickly on the Humble New Music Bundle.
I just want to say, well, I'll say that I think that Clutch just showed something to a stream that is so awesome.
What is it?
Clutch, what was that?
It's the Jim Raynor dog tags I got with the StarCraft 2 Collector's Edition.
Yes.
The USB. Yeah. I use it all the time. Like for school. Well, I graduated school, but for school projects, I'd use it all the time. Like, what the heck is that? Like, that's
so cool.
That is.
That's awesome.
Those are dog tags.
I'm too scared of losing it. I'm just too scared of losing it. I leave it at home.
I got my Diablo one
All right.
over here too.
Yeah, at home.
So what was the question? What did we think of the Humble Indie Bundle?
The new music one, yes.
Or the music one? I mean, I've only checked it out briefly. I think that, the Humble Bundles tend to be pretty good. I dislike, generally I dislike pay what you want systems, because they are ways for people to feel like they are, giving. It makes people that give nothing or pay nothing for it feel like that's the way that everything should be done, and it's not. You cannot have an economy where everyone just pays what they want, because in the long run people pay nothing, and then you don't get those people that are you don't get those people paying $10,000, because no one is making enough money in order to do that. So anyway, my rant is that the Occupy Wall Street movement is stupid.
Oh Jesus.
Right, so let's put that aside. You had another topic you wanted to talk about, something you were really excited about, and I hope it's nerd and game related.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was drinking my booze, which I have to do every time I go live somewhere because I get so nervous. But anyway,
Fine.
So the great thing. Okay, topic: Pokemon MMO. First game that I ever, hid while, I would hide while playing it in order to stay, my parents wouldn't see that I was playing, hours of Pokemon. It was so neat, and a Pokemon MMO would be a game where those traditional classes, they're gone. Those traditional, tank, tank, healer, DPS, that's gone. You have, 6 Pokemon, and they are part of your group. And now, how would that work? Now, Nintendo says that they will never make a game for a platform that they have not made. Or they will never release a game for something that is not one of their platforms. So unless the next generation Wii or next generation, console can support MMO play, it's not going to happen.
Nintendo
But-
computer.
yes, I would love. Well, no, a Nintendo computer would cost, oh, that would cost so much. But anyway, the I don't know. I think that how would a Pokemon MMO work? Would you go around and find a flock of Pidgeys and throw your Pokeball at it?
Yeah,
Or,
tall grass.
I think that would be awesome. You have you walk into like a I don't know like Viridian Forest, and there's a Pikachu hiding behind the tree, but how do you engage that with your Bulbasaur and not let your
Maybe you don't have to capture, man. Maybe just take pictures like that one dude did.
Pokemon Snap was a good.
yeah, but
I
it's
love
not
that
MMO.
thing.
It's
Maybe.
not.
Do you think that for at least Pokemon, the MMO aspect has to be scaled down, and it should just be sort of a more of a multiplayer online game where you don't have like thousands of people per server, you have more like hundreds, and that because I know in like World of Warcraft when you walk somewhere, you see like 5 guys doing the exact same thing as you, and you might not want that on a Pokemon server because you want to catch that Pikachu. You don't want to have those other 5 guys. So do you think it would be better to have it be like you're playing a game and then randomly sometimes also see another trainer?
It'd be kind of interesting if we could do like something like Guild Wars does, where only the towns and only like the towns and the cities are MMO, and then once you go out of the towns and you're actually going out into the like the Pokemon-filled world, that's where
it's instanced or phased. Yeah.
Yeah. And you could also
think that would be
bring
neat.
people along with you.
I think that would be a way that would work, because you're not just, running around and bumping into people, and you are having your own little adventure, except you can go back into town, and I really want to... Okay, my nerd dream is not necessarily a Pokemon MMO, but at least a first-person Pokemon game, where, I am Ash. I name all of my,
You're not Ash,
Pokemon.
you're Red.
No, I am Ash. Don't go with the actual lore. I don't know. What would keep people in there? I think that people would leave if it just became go and catch all the Pokemon, because
Pokemon.
they would have to limit certain Pokemon. You can't have 10,000 Mewtwo's. Some of them you wouldn't be able to catch. You would have to not be able to catch Mewtwo.
Okay, here's
I think catching Mewtwo's would have to be like an event, and people would have to compete to be able to catch that.
I think when you do that, when you make items that only some people can get, because so I think that Star Wars Galaxies did this, where they had artifact items that there was only one per server, and that broke servers. You have one.
Well, I mean, like they wouldn't be rare events; they'd be regular events. But once if you won the event last time, you'd be like barred from it.
I don't like that. Here's how I'm just gonna drop my 2 cents because I've been thinking about this one for a little bit. In some ways, it feels a little similar to Tor in some ways for me. But I don't know if any of you have ever looked at Pokemon Special manga, but that actually has some serious plots in it about evil gym leaders and Lance trying to take over the world or something to that effect. So one possibility is we make it a little Tor-like and just have everyone go through the story, compete as they are, have a relatively open world. You can encounter wild trainers you can encounter other players in the wild and battle them. Let's say you go through the Gen 1 storyline first, or maybe the Gen 3 as well. They happen at the same time. The legendaries are like PvE dungeons. You can't actually capture the Pokemon. You can only beat it back or do something. And then eventually, the big climax of the storyline, not the PvE not the multiplayer climax, but your single-player story climax, is effectively tackling the Elite Four. Then you have the endgame stuff and the post-endgame, which is the Unknown Dungeon, Battle Frontier, and other related things that you could play around.
But Battle Frontier is just PvP. Having just PvP, I don't think that works.
I'm not saying it's just PvP. You have things like the Cerulean Cave, the Sevi Islands. You could do You could even make Safari Zone stuff somehow. The Safari Zone is a big area for expansion.
Fletch? Any thoughts?
Well, it comes into... It's not the character you're building, it's your pets. And so everybody's going to be a pet-type class, right? And... Well, it can work, just it's going to have to be like 600 people to a server. What's the end game? What's the end game in Pokemon?
It's also, I guess,
catching all of them.
The questions that I have is it going to be a turn-based system like you actually have in Pokemon, or is it going to be a actual battle system where your skill in positioning and stuff actually has something to do with it?
Well,
are you controlling the Pokemon through psychic powers or what?
I mean, another way I've been thinking of possibly is, and this is a horrible idea, but it's an idea, is that instead of being a Pokemon trainer, but you're actually a Pokemon.
The Mystery Dungeon games tried that. They didn't work too well.
So you can only communicate
It's a horrible idea,
to your... So if I'm Psyduck, the only way I can talk to my friends is... Psy! That's it. That's all I can say. It's like if I want to trade with the guy, if I want to trade with the guy next to me, I'm just gonna go Psyduck, Psyduck, Psyduck. That's it.
No, but you wouldn't get to trade because you have no items because you're a Pokemon.
Then I would not.
Yeah, you can.
I hold the stick.
Yeah, and if you're a Bidoof, you can pick things up as you're walking along.
Never say that name.
Aw, shoot.
Bidoof.
Bidoof.
Bidoof is on fire.
I don't want to remember Bidoof.
Anyway.
It's almost as annoying as Pat Rat.
Yeah, well...
How is it that some Pokemon could talk and some couldn't?
That was just Meowth. Because he learned to talk.
No. There was another one that could, like, psychically communicate with its owner.
Couldn't Mewtwo do that?
Yeah, Mewtwo could speak.
Right. Yeah, Mewtwo could. Well, but the cat, the Team Rocket cat, What's the? Meowth. Yeah, that little sucker could talk.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if you play as a Pokemon, then you're essentially just bring it down to a class, and you again start in your starting zone. You're choosing between your Pidgey, your Rattata.
There would be no need to group up with anybody because it's all 1v1. Unless you want to do like Team League style Pokemon.
That'd be interesting. You could do the double and triple battles. You could just team up with other people to do.
Well, look, I think that.
Well, it's already kind of Team League.
Pokemon MMO is. I don't see any way in which it would properly work. It's a dream.
I feel like if it could have been done, it would have been done by now. That stuff's been around for a long time.
People have tried to make an online version of Pokemon where you could, anyway. And if they did in the more recent generations make it so that you could play against people remotely, via Wi-Fi.
Except in Hamilton, where my DS cannot connect.
Except in Hamilton because their internet is oh dear. Anyway,
what if the end game is you actually physically get to see Gary die? It would be a huge blockbuster hit.
That's so dark.
That would be worth it.
I mean,
I like seeing blue and golds in Gen 2 and in the remake.
Stop calling them blue and red and gold and silver. I demand it.
Why? Who are you?
They're Ash and Gary. Anyway, what you were saying?
It would be what is the end game, right? I mean, is it going to be a level system, or is it how many Pokemon you have? Do you have an evolution system? Where's major hubs? The gyms? Is there places where you don't fight? Are there I don't know if there's factions, Team Rocket. It sounds something that would be cool to play like as a flash game on a browser, not really as something as a full-on $15 a month MMO.
Yeah, no, I think that it would be extremely difficult to implement well. I think there are a lot of ways in which it could be implemented effectively as just a clone of Pokemon Red with a lot of people in it, which would probably actually be pretty bad. Yeah. But if you know, I think that the only way in which the most important thing will be to figure out the story and what is going to keep people in it. And I don't see any way that it can be done. And so I think the conclusion of this is that Harry Potter MMO, yes. Pokemon MMO.
Well, for the story, I mean, the games have some story you can use. You have the Team Rocket in Gen 1, you've got Team Rocket again in Gen 2, Magma and Aqua in Gen 3, Galactic in 4, Plasma in 5, and Plasma is where it really gets interesting. Because the way I could see, the only problem is you become a supporting character. And I'm just thinking in Gen 5 it has the player character as the legendary hero who fights N with his legendary dragon and then destroys Geet Dennis, or however you say his name.
Actually, but before you keep going, I just want to make a comment on Gen 5 Pokemon. There's a Pokemon in there that is literally the creator of the world. Or
That's Gen 4. That's Gen 4.
The creator of the world, and you can enslave it.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be an awesome end boss.
I don't understand that. As a plot point, I don't understand it.
It was not a plot point. It was one of those event mons. There was an event in game you could do if you got the Azure Flute or some item like that, but it was never handed out.
I don't care. It is a a theoretical plot point that you can enslave God.
Is it bad that I really like the sound of it?
I choose you, Machine Gun Jesus. Throw the Pokeball out. It's super effective.
Everything is super.
Converting hit. Yeah.
I could say something in terrible taste about the Romans, but I'm not going to.
No.
I don't know. I think that we do have one other topic on today's show notes.
Well, we have two possibles.
Okay. So, let's talk about esports. Unless anyone else wants to have a final word on this whole hour-and-a-half topic of MMOs.
I think we've decided, or we've come to the agreement that Pokemon MMO in the classical sense of MMO is impossible. But I think that there's no reason that you couldn't just have like Pokemon Red, but where you randomly see other players sometimes. And I think that would be an interesting journey. I do not know. Oh yeah, like Journey. And I think you could. It wouldn't be an MMO in the traditional sense, but I think it would be Pokemon, the Pokemon we know and love, but better, and where there's actual other people who you could battle.
Or maybe we could just do Pokemon Dota.
Never-ending story MMO 2015. All right, next topic.
Next topic. The growth of esports and trends in video game genres, past, present, and future. As the resident, Clutch, you being the resident esports expert, the growth of esports, StarCraft really did boost it into the mainstream, right?
Yes.
What right now is the biggest driving force in continuing the expansion of esports?
The entertainment value. The entertainment value really is the expansion point. More people are watching these events more and more. The production value is going up. You know, they're seeing these crowds that are going crazy when they hear their favorite names, their favorite players being called. When I did the intro for the Kestra players, you know, that was a lot of history out of Korea that so many people had to watch from afar or not even get to see live. They would just read about it on Team Liquid on different websites. And then to see these players in person and then to see them compete in StarCraft 2, you know, this is a very, very, very big deal in terms of history, bridging the gap between Korea and the Western world. Korea is still the mecca of esports, but now North America has shown that there is a very, very vibrant energy over here, and there's a lot of money that is being used to invest in these events, in these leagues. Europe has been doing it for a while as well, but now the Western scene has really grown in the last 2 years, exponentially, I think.
Korea, there's no way in which Korea is going to maintain its throne with regard to esports. It will with regard to the players for quite a while, because at least in StarCraft, you're going to be seeing, I think part of what Total Biscuit said is true, that as soon as the Koreans start getting a personality, then the Western players are no one's going to care about them, because the Koreans practice harder, but there's so much more in prize money in the United States than there is in Korea.
Yeah.
Period. Same thing in the United States versus Europe, but the North American ladder, is generally considered to be the worst of the three. I don't really know what Southeast Asia is considered. Is that even considered a?
I don't know. I don't know where they rank.
But so I mean, generally people think of it as North America as the bottom, and then Europe, and then Korean ladders, but all the vast majority of the viewers, the vast majority of the money is coming from the United States. So, not talking specifically about tournaments, what is the best thing? Bureaucratically is the wrong word. As a development in gaming, first thing that comes to mind for me is that it was an article that I saw not too long ago saying that we don't need more personalities in esports. We have enough. We have people like you, Clutch. We need more new good players, and we need more behind the scenes people that are managers, people that are people that are referees. We need high quality video producers and advertising representatives and managers and what's the word I'm looking for? Agents. And of those things, what do you think might be the most important to have to get more of, or utilize more of?
Yeah, I feel that they're on the talent side. It being full. I can kind of agree with you there in terms of the standard that's set, the benchmark that has been laid down for the talent that's there now, and how they're used at a lot of different leagues and events. And there's not a lot of money in esports still. Wigan, who's a friend of mine, he was a guest on a show that I host called Shifting Gears, and we talked about how people think that people just make so much money in esports, and we both kind of laughed, and he said, if Clutch wanted to really make money, he wouldn't be doing esports. Well, that's starting to turn the corner a little bit now. I'm trying to make a career out of it. It is a little bit difficult, but once the infrastructure's in place, right, in terms of talent, like the talent's there, then I agree with you that everything else has to come together, and a lot of that is on the behind-the-scenes production side. There needs to be a proper marriage of people that are talented in media, in broadcasting, that know what they're doing, that are at the control desk, that know how to do sound, that know how to do camera work, that know how to do video switching, and there need to be people that know the game. And if you can marry those two types of people together in a production meeting, that's how you're going to get the best content. I feel that there is either too many people that know the game and don't know enough about media, or vice versa in certain scenarios, and certain broadcasts, and certain leagues even. And yes, experiments will happen. People are doing things for the first time. They're wearing several hats. It's very true. But there needs to be a proper infrastructure if we're going to really start, not having sound issues, not having video issues, having great content so we don't have a lot of crowd filler all the time. And that needs to happen. There's so many young people in this, right? I mean, There's not a lot of people that have been doing this for 20, 30 years in television. They're kind of doing it for the last couple of years. So, and it's going to come with time, but I feel that people like Brian Balsbaugh and his agents with Poker Royalty moving into esports as well with the Esports Management Group is a really good sign, because people that have worked with poker and have seen the rise of poker and have learned kind of what works and what doesn't, see the same trends in esports, and gives a lot of optimism to esports as well.
Well, I want to get your thoughts on something that was just said in your stream chat. And again, for those of you that are listening at WHCL, please also check out Clutch's stream. It's at twitch.tv/clutch08. Clutch as in, the manual transmission.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, something that was said in your chat. I'm going to quote this person. I'm trying with regard to getting involved in behind the scenes stuff, looking to volunteer for esports business and the
CSN, Cyber Sports Network.
Cyber Sports Network. And I guess my point of view on that, and if you're still listening, please don't volunteer. I think that we all need to start getting to the point where volunteer work is not acceptable. When you just have an entire workforce based off of volunteers, first off, as the volunteer, you are not, or the company does not, respect you in the same way that they would a paid position. They also don't, they don't expect the maximum quality work, and as such, you can't advance as far. I know that there are a lot of people that want to get involved in esports. I want to get more involved in esports. I'm, pretty much on the sidelines. But that I really believe that it's important that, EG, and I think that EG does pay even its writers for its website, but that all these different esports groups start saying, okay, we need to start paying our bills. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a good point to bring up, and the situation that we're in right now is there's so many people that are willing to do it for free, right? And they think, well, if I do it for free, then I'll get my foot in the door. That's half true. I mean, you'll definitely get your name out there, and if you do a good job, people will remember you. And some of these jobs are close to doing it for free. I mean, you get a little bit of cash, but you can't pay your bills on it. And that's actually a lot of positions in esports are like that. But the thing about it is, if you make a stand, that league, that company would be more willing to just fire you and hire somebody else that is willing to do it for free, willing to be a volunteer. And that's tough. That's really tough because there's so many people out there that are vying for that position that want to do it. And then you look at, well, what's the skill sets, right? What is the league putting out there, or the organization putting out there? Like, what do they need? What are the skill sets? And some of it's just a warm body, they need this filled, they need to do that. And the unfortunate thing about that, like I brought up, is you can be easily replaceable, even as a volunteer or as an employee. Now, if you work into a scenario where you're not easily replaceable, like myself, what I've done, I started out as a cameraman, and the way we were using cameras back then, and the league I was with was really easy to be replaced. But they liked me, and it was fine. And then when the new season happened, they didn't hire me back to be a cameraman because they totally switched up their camera modes, so I wasn't hired back. And then they had some issues, and they asked me to come back as a production assistant because I knew the game, I knew the players, I knew how to communicate with people, I knew how the stream worked, and they really needed help. And so came back as a production assistant, kicked butt, did very well, worked my butt off, and it was great for the next couple events, and then everything became a well-oiled machine. And so it was I really needed as much anymore? I mean, maybe. I was there for emergencies and stuff, but we kept noticing crowd time. Like, we needed to fill that. And they knew of my acting background, and so I became a host. And so I moved my way into positions that was needed, but also accented my skills, accented my talents, or my talents were used in those scenarios. And half of it, guys, too, is right place, right time. I mean, timing in terms of production, even in the acting world, is really important as well. This is not working in retail for 2 years, then getting promoted. This is not going to law school and then working for a firm. Like, there's no set pattern. A lot of it, since it's so new and upcoming and people are trying to figure things out, is who you know and be in the right place at the right time.
So, I mean, I guess my comment on the whole working for free thing is, it may be best for, if I really want to work in esports, it may be best for me to say, okay, I'm going to work for free.
Initially.
Is that better for esports? I mean,
not if people that are not if people that are in position of finances continue to bank on that for budgets, right? They keep thinking, okay, we can get free labor out of the community to create this content. Well, initially, yeah, if you're a startup company, you're trying to make things work, I can understand that for 1 or 2 events. But when you continuously do it, or you rely on that for the majority of your content, that's unethical. That's wrong. You're just using free labor, you know, and who's benefiting it? They are. They're getting the stream numbers, they're getting the money revenue, and that's not a good thing, and it's not right, honestly. And that's how unions got formed in our nation's history, is to not be taken advantage of. But there's a certain line, I think. There's helping to grow something, and there's being part of a team to build something and to get paid for it.
Anyone else have any ideas on the topic?
Just to build a little on this, to bring an example from the political world, back in 2008, Obama, during his campaign, developed his campaign organization called, I believe it was Obama for America. Huge turnout, excellent infrastructure, worked incredibly well. What happens after the election? He shifts it into something called Organizing for America, and because a lot of it was volunteers, a lot of it was the exact problems that you were describing, quite a bit of attrition. He's trying to build it back up for this campaign, but it is encountering problems because of that attrition, because a lot of people realized, right, it's the right place, right time mentality, and so many people are not. Passion, while very, very helpful, cannot be the only thing going for an organization. And that brings me to the other point that I'm going to make. What happens as esports shift? Right now we have some pretty cornerstone esport games. We've got the MOBA, we've got StarCraft 2, we have some shooters, we have some fighters. How can esports handle the constant, the eventual shifts as we go to new consoles, as we go to new genres, as new things become popular? How do we handle those shifts?
I think that the new consoles, that will, you know, I think that, okay, look at the Halo series has generally been, you know, it's one after the other after the other. Hold 1 second. Someone fill in for me because I'm having a knock at my door.
Anyone?
Sorry, are you guys not actually filling in for me?
I'll fill in for you then.
Okay, no. Actually, no. Max, go, because this is otherwise going to be tons of dead air. Go.
Okay, fine. Yes. So about the shifts in the game, I want to just put that on the table because I think Matt had some interesting response to that. I hope he does. But I just want to discuss with everyone the importance of passion in work, especially in the esport world, and whether or not it can run everything. Now, I've made the argument that passion's a very good thing. It helps you. But what happens to you on those days where you just get down, where everything's not going right, when things are just collapsing? Passion alone, I don't think, is enough to sustain an organization for extended periods of time. In your experience, how has that been in the esport world?
No, I feel that you have to have a team around you to really help with that, and a league, for example, like NASL, they're a team of talent that works together every day, compared to MLG, where they hire in most of their talent once every 6 weeks just for the weekend, right? So it's kind of two different mentalities. Well, if you have a team and you have a goal and you have a vision and you're continuously working together and helping each other and supporting each other to that vision, it's going to be easier compared to getting an email a couple days before your flight, showing up, understanding how it's going to work, having ideas, doing it, getting your check, and then going home and waiting for the next event, right? It's like, are you part of something that's growing, that's building, that's amazing, or are you part of something that's growing, building, and amazing just for 3 days and then going home and doing something else? So I feel that both types of business perspectives and the private contractor versus to being part of a league, you know, have different dynamics. And I'm not saying like one is better than the other, but I feel that you will see a difference in terms of growth and strength in a team that works together every day compared to a team that works together just once every 6 weeks.
All right, I'm inclined to agree because I think the team side of things definitely helps when it comes to change, because to quote a somewhat trite saying, the only thing constant is change, and we see that in esports. StarCraft 2 changed a lot of the esports metagame, as we've just been discussing, new consoles and whatnot. And while the contract mentality that you've described definitely helps in just keeping passion there, because you do it for a weekend,